Well there, I'm going to show you a tutorial on making the audio for the Moose and Wolf background music soundtrack. Interesting process that happened here. So this installation is going in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Partnered and directed by Heid Erdrich, and pretty cool animation by Jonathan Thunder. So my component was to take the audio of Heid reading her poem for the installation and then pitch it to the sounds of the animals that are of the sculptures that are being made. So one moose and one wolf. So I'm just going to show the process to do the moose sound, and same process that went to working in with the wolf sound. So I used this program called Melodyne. I think that's how you say it. So what I'm able to do in this program is if you have a sound, you can lay it across this grid and it would show you the pitch of the sound. And it has these different tools to show at what percent the pitch is in tune and not in tuned, and you can quantify it if you want to do it that way, or pitch it so it's more in tune. The more you start to use those options, the more artifacts are found, and it becomes more artificial sounding. So the moose sound that we have here, it's highlighted. It's in the red, and the gray is the poet's voice. So the initial poet voice, it was not pitched to here, but that's a pretty long process, so I'm not going to go through that. Just showing the files that I have worked on right now. So here's the moose sound. Pretty unique sound. A lot of the research that went into this project was tracking down the perfect moose sound, and so interesting seeing how much interest there is in making moose calls, competitions, and whatnot. Um, so that was pretty cool. So you can see right here the initial moose sound call. It's showing you over here. It's F sharp or G flat, and then it descends down to F, E, and then around D. There's different percentages that that it pitches these notes, and so over here on the left, it shows you which percentage of the note it is. So you can do like quarter notes, half notes, whatnot. Flat or sharp, whatever that is. So this is showing D3, 48% flat. The beginning of this is the F sharp. Still F sharp, but it's at different percentages within that pitched note. And so what I did was to take the raw poet voice and lay it proximity to the pitched noise. So that would look like this. So it's around F sharp. I didn't want to make it too perfect. Again, if with the pitch perfect stuff, the auto tune and the quantizing, there would be more artifacts that are there. It's already, the sound's artificial already because you're pitching a voice outside of its original tone. So here's Heid's voice.
Ode Mikana, Heartline. Always following that one, always trailing. Ma Ingen Makan, the wolf's path in stars. Our first teacher, Ma Ingen, brother, the wolf. Always following that one, always trailing. Now you follow too. Our hearts align. What happens to one happens to the other. Ode Makan, Ma Ingen Makan, heart, path, wolf trail, starway. Through Gagigagijik, forever sky, the animate universe. Now we.
So along the same line, and so the two blended together adds interesting. So you can hear the artifacts with the voice being pitched to the tones of the moose call. You really hear it when it goes pretty high up.
Ode Mikana, Heartline. Always following that one, always trailing. Ma Ingen Makan, the wolf's path in stars. Our first teacher, Ma Ingen, brother, the wolf. Always following that one, always trailing. Now you follow too. Our hearts align. What happens to one happens to the other. Ode Makan, Ma Ingen Makan, heart, path, wolf trail, starway. Through Gagigagijik, forever sky, the animate universe. Now we animate.
Pretty strange. I think that's kind of one of the examples of the strangeness adds its own interesting coolness to it. Original idea was to use Hyde's reading in a monotone voice and then a pitch, but what I've noticed with that, it seemed to introduce more artifacts to the tone quality itself when I was pitching it around the calls itself. So I went the other route of taking her performance version over the monotone, just because there's more tones to work with within the reading itself. So, and with this setup, after going through the whole poem, pitching it to the moose call. The moose call's longer than the actual poem read. That is all exported out into a WAV file, and if really want to, you can export it out into a MIDI file, and that you can have any instrument play along with the read poem. So that pretty cool program. Kind of tedious work, but job satisfaction once you get it all done and ready to go to the next stage of creating the soundtrack for the installation. So from there, I like to work in Fruity Loops. It's the easiest DAWs program to input information and also work with MIDI information or sequencing with samples and patterns. So here, the moose call. threw some reverb on it and gave it a certain feel. The nature sounds, trying to get away from that, but couldn't really do it that much other than EQing it, and that cleaned it up a little bit more. But once it's in the mix, then some of those items go away. So the patterns that I use to create the soundtrack, pretty interesting. So your standard beat, just the pulse going on. Because what I've been told is the installation is going to have a aspect where the participant can pedal along and make this thing come to life. So set the tempo to 140. It's actually cut in half, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so it feels not too fast at 140. It's actually half that tempo. And so it's one pattern there, bass, and then let's see, pattern 8. So I try to create a pattern where if it's repeated over and over again, there's this sense of not feeling too repetitious, but a sense of renewal every time. So here, going through the chords A, C, F, E. So you have that strong resolution going back to the A from E at the end right here. So good climax resolution. The musicality is strong with those strong chord progressions. One sound on top. So that one is a gated sound that has these other rhythms happening there. So throwing that on top of the basic beat behind that adds all these other rhythms that I didn't necessarily know was going to happen, but it was through trial and error to make it find the right piece that fit the overall quality and sense of movement that should be going along with the piece. And here's the bass section. So again, choosing another piece where another sound that had some rhythmic quality. So when you put the two together, creates the rhythm section on top of the chord progression. It's also choosing sounds that feel random, so it doesn't feel too artificial, even though it's all in the box created. So have another sound here to add to building of the rhythm. You have a hand drum sound. So it's a hand drum, small hand drum. I think they're called a water drum with a shaker. That's one hand drum there, and then another hand drum. So put those two together and throwing reverb on it so it can kind of mesh together as if they're in the same room. Then add the kick drum for the low end thump. Then add the bass. Midsection. So there I created what feels mechanical sounding, industrial a little bit. I guess it would be like riding a bike or working out music, just like this chugging along. So hopefully that helps folks when they're pedaling along with this piece. So it's the background that's happening there, and then throw on the wolf or on this one the moose sounds with the voice. We'll play with the moose first. Now play it with the voice included.
Ode Mikana, Heartline. Always following that one, always trailing. Ma Ingen Makan, the wolf's path in stars. Our first teacher, Ma Ingen, brother, the wolf. Always following that one, always trailing. Now you follow too. Our hearts align. What happens to one happens to the other. Ode Makan, Ma Ingen Makan, heart path, wolf trail, starway through Gagi.
So that's how I created this piece. So same process with the wolf. If I can get this pull up here. Oh, there we go. Again, with the same idea, pedaling along, if that's going to be the component with this installation, something churning. Pretty fun. So I hope you enjoyed that. That was making of installation music. Pretty fun project. I used this process before. When I was looking at people who have a certain poetry voice where it's melodic, or they have certain pitches, and I can look at that and see what's going on, and seeing what's going on musically with the drama of the sound itself and how it works toward the end of the performance reading. And there's some interesting artifacts that come out of that. And I even took Heid's piece, um, and want to see what it would sound like if I doubled it with instruments. So that would be this one. So throwing a fat beat on it, of course. So the initial reading.
Ode Mekana, Heartline. Always following that one, always trailing. Ma'ingen Makan, the wolf's path in stars. Our first teacher, Ma'ingen, brother.
So here is the sound bounced into bounced down to a MIDI file. So the original spoken word itself with all its pitches, and that was going down, that bounced down to a MIDI file, and so that MIDI file is playing an instrument, and so I chose this instrument. So what's happening there is these are a minor third apart, but octave. So I guess that would be 13th or something like that. So like the first note's A here, then C natural, so minor third, but an octave higher. So, and choosing this sound too, I mean, it's like a creepy sound. It kind of fills up space too with that distance, and choosing that sound too that has this certain amount of reverb on it. So I did another one, this time doubling up more sounds and running that through other pitched instrument sounds. So here's this one. This one is, so we have the octave right here, and there's a fifth, and then there's another octave. So these parallel fifths moving around, so it gives it that Gregorian chant feel. So the interesting thing that happens too when it's bounced down to MIDI from the original file is it also has the velocity, so you can see when someone's reading their piece when they move around, not only pitch wise but also in their velocity. So that happens here. So it gives it that sense of when you run it through MIDI that it's more natural than, I mean, it's artificial, but more natural sounding, I guess. And so this is piano sound, obviously. And so you have this huge range of the sound that's happening there. And so I had that doubled with this sound. Oh, what happened to it? Maybe I cut it. I think I might have cut it. Let's see. What's going on here? Yeah, I cut it. I think it was too heavy, bass heavy, and it took away from the mix of the drums that are on top of that. So piano and this weird like 60s organ sound mixed together. That's what you just heard. Give it some low end thump. And then add some more drums to it. Oh, just to be clear, this section, this piece is included in the installation. It was just a one-off of playing around with these sounds. I wanted to see what it would sound like if I did this process where the poet's voice is mixed in with these sounds, doubling it. So here's the full section piece.
Ode Mikana, Heartline. Always following that one, always trailing. Ma Ingen Makan, the wolf's path in stars. Our first teacher, Ma Ingen, brother, the wolf. Always following that one, always trailing. Now you follow too. Our hearts align. What happens to one happens to the other. Ode Makan, Ma Ingen Makan. Heart, path, wolf, trail, starway. Through Gagige Gijik, forever sky. The animate universe, now we animate. Ecliptic my Ingan Makan, wolf trail, trailing moose through.
So as you can hear, as it reads along with, or as the music plays along with the spoken word, there's some, it didn't exactly sync up with the tones happening. There's something happens that when it bounces down, that even if I line up the tempos to where I want it to go, there's still some cutting and pasting that has to happen, and I just have to be okay with there being delays or the music or the performance doesn't totally sync up all the way. So that's interesting aspect of creating music this way. Pretty fun. All right, thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed that.